In our last set of videos, we talked a lot about different accounting systems for inventory, perpetual and periodic. The difference being when we account for inventory and cost of goods sold, and some of the accounts that we use in each system. Consider a wholesaler or a retailer that likes hats, and really likes hats. And they buy a bunch of different types of hats. They might buy these blue hats to see how they sell in the market, and they buy them today for $2 a piece. They sell really well. They decide to buy more blue hats. The next time they go to buy these blue hats, it might cost more or less or the same as what they paid for the previous time. So now they have a bunch of these blue hats sitting in inventory. Whenever they make a sale, which specific blue hat did they sell? The one that they got for $2 a piece, the one that they paid more than $2 a piece for, or the one that they paid less than $2 a piece for? We reckon with this issue in accounting by applying a costing assumption to the inventory. There are three different types of costing assumptions that we can use: first in and first out, otherwise known as FIFO, specific identification, or a weighted average or moving weighted average, depending on whether we're using a perpetual or periodic system. Let's take a look at each of these three types of costing assumptions. You decide you want to start an e-commerce business, but you're not sure what kind of business. What is it that you're going to sell? And then you have an idea. You decide that you are going to sell hats. And you're not just a thinker. Oh no, you're a doer. So you go out and you buy hats for $2 a hat. And you're confident. You think you're going to sell a lot of hats. So make way, you are getting even more inventory. You buy more of the exact same types of hats, except the price has gone up. They're now $2.50 a hat. You're still confident though. You buy even more inventory. So you go back to your store. You start selling. You start selling these hats and you are flying high. You are making a lot of money. Everything's great. Until you decide it's time to do some accounting. You need to account for the hats that you sold. Well, which ones did you sell? Question: how do you figure this out? Well, we can apply an inventory costing assumption. First in, first out is just that. The first batch of hats that you bought, the first in, are the first ones that you will assume were sold. So we got more hats after the $2 batch at $2.50. You got more after that at $3, and the $2 hats are the first ones that you assume to have sold. Then you sell the $2.50, and then finally the $3 ones are sold. That's the flow of the first in, first out method, and that's how it works. But let's scrap that. An easier way, one would argue, for accounting's sake, is specific identification, where you know exactly how many of which hats you sold. This might be a little harder to achieve with respect to the technology and the investment that needs to be made in tracking inventory, but once that is done, one would argue that the accounting is easier to do. And you could say, well, I sold 12 hats at $2, 17 hats that cost me $2.50, and 20 of the hats that cost me $3. You could be able to do that with specific identification and account for it a lot easier. Finally, we have weighted average methods. Now, if in a perpetual system, we use the moving weighted average method, that's because we calculate a new weighted average cost of inventory after each purchase. So every time we make a purchase, the average is going to change. Compare that to a periodic system. We just call it a weighted average because the average cost of inventory is not moving during the period. It is only updated at the end of the period or calculated at the very end of the period. In our next video, we'll take a look at how first in and first out, or FIFO, applies to a perpetual system of inventory. So see you then, and thanks for watching.